Get ready to uncover how schools manipulate students' thoughts, stifle their potential, and how politicians steal money in the future of America from kids. Welcome to the JB Sill Show.
Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Operation Anti-Indoctrination. I'm your host, JB. It's great to be here today. We're on episode 101. That's crazy, 101. That's also kind of my favorite number. I don't know why, but it's kind of a cool number, 101. Yeah. Great to be here. Going to be talking about some more schooling, because honestly, I don't really feel like talking about anything else. I needed to distract myself from the news, and it's kind of what this show is about, other than the national debt, which I never talk about because it's not a fun subject. This is much more fun. This is much more fun. Talking about the school system is a lot more fun. It's great talking about this horrible system that we have. But if you've watched the show at all, you know that I'm not really a fan of the school system, and that is a bit of an understatement. So what we're gonna do today is basically go through the justification. Let's put this professionally here. I'm gonna be giving you a window into the men who built the school system, showing you how they justified it and what their aims were, and why they thought that they could perfect humanity, because that's the entire aim behind the school system, is to perfect humanity, creating a utopia. I can back this all up. We've done it on the show before. Again, if you're new here, you can email me. I don't know, my email is jbsillsshow@gmail.com. I will provide you the necessary information, but basically the purpose of the school system is utterly utopian. It is to create a perfect society, and in order to do that, you have to conquer several things. We will be going through I will be giving you a window into the men who did this. We will be showing you how they rationalized this, what their aims were, and basically I'll be giving you a window into their thoughts. Today we'll be talking about people like Plato, Francis Bacon, Johann Fichte, Fanny Wright, Robert Owen, Horace Mann, John Dewey, Sigmund Freud, Wilhelm Wundt, those sorts of people. All the people that made the school system over thousands of years of history. The people that came up with the school system, made it. So let's go. And at the end, we'll be getting into some current news if we have time. We'll see. We'll see how long this takes. But first up here, we have the idea that man is basically a machine. It's like that Star Wars thing from Empire Strikes Back, where he's more machine than man now. Or was that Return of the Jedi? I don't remember, but it was one of the movies. He's more machine than man now. That's basically the idea behind a lot of the school system. And this is especially prevalent in Wilhelm Wundt. He was the founder of experimental psychology in Germany. And he believed that the psyche, the soul, nature did not exist. It was completely irrelevant. You could discard it from existing. It was not real. That's what Wundt believed. And in doing so, he basically was able to justify experimentally programming people, which he called true science. He called the true, real science, was just experimentally programming people and training others to do the same. People like G. Stanley Hall, James McKean Cattell. There were several other ones. Pavlov was kind of in there at the same time. But he justified doing this because, according to him, man had no nature. He was only nurture, no soul, nothing real. He was just a machine to be programmed. That's it. And if you have mass compulsory schooling, you can do that. You can program people however you want to. And that was the idea. And his ideas were imported into America and were imported into the school system, forced into it by taking control of all the elite private universities, which trained future teachers: Columbia Teachers College, the University of Chicago, Clark University, Johns Hopkins, all these places that were meant to induce this experimental psychology where you would program people. Instead of teaching them, instead of letting them fulfill their own education, you would program them selectively in order to perfect the human race. Alrighty. So, next up we have the desire to get rid of the family and religion, because you had many people throughout history: Plato, Francis Bacon, Fanny Wright, Sigmund Freud, Wilhelm Wundt, John Dewey. All these people that believed that the family and religion were the root of all evils. and that if we could just get rid of the family somehow, in sort of a brave, I don't know if anyone listening to this has read the book Brave New World. It would be kind of like that, where nobody even has the mental concept of the family. Now, of course, the family is ingrained in human nature, but they didn't see it that way. They saw it as it was their job to use this new science, this new experimental psychology to eliminate the family. It's truly incredible logic. And it's manifested because the school system discourages family through their dependence. When you're in school, you're dependent on the teachers. You're emotionally and intellectually and educationally dependent. And when you get out of the school, you're dependent on the government, on the welfare state. And you don't have a spouse. You don't have kids. You marry the government. So by enforcing dependency, we can get rid of the family. And by just blunt religious indoctrination, we can get rid of Christianity predominantly. I mean, America certainly was back then. Maybe it's debatable for this, but America certainly was back then a Christian nation, and they wanted to get rid of that certainly because going way back to Plato to Dewey, they all hated religion. They've said this. I could provide quotes, but I don't have them at the moment. Probably should have gotten some, to be honest. I'll maybe put some in the description. I don't know. But that's number 2, is basically we want to get rid of the family and religion. Again, this is how they justified it all. They said if we could just get rid of the family, we could have this great, perfect society where the concept wouldn't even exist. No one would even know what it was. Number 3, we have a desire to form an elite which would conquer the burdens of humanity. The burdens that have existed for really billions of years, if you want to look at this evolutionarily. You have this for billions of years, and if not hundreds of thousands just for humans. But you have, first of all, the idea of work, where what they wanted to do was frame work as something that could be conquered. Whereas we're instead of working ourselves, we're going to control workers. The idea of the school is to produce workers, of course, to produce subservient workers, and you see this today in companies like Amazon. How otherwise would they have gotten so big so quickly? Because you had millions and millions of workers who had nothing else to do except do this remedial work. So you have an elite which is not going to work and does not acknowledge the intrinsic value of working, of using your hands, of being blue collar. You have an elite which sees that as something to be conquered, as something to overcome, and instead of working, they will control workers. That's Rockefeller, Carnegie, all those people that were totally in on this whole scheme. So basically, we're going to conquer work. You're also going to conquer the very concept of good and evil. It's very interesting how these people talk about good and evil, where they basically say, well, since there's no nature, since we have no soul, no psyche, no brains really other than what's put into us, then good and evil do not exist. Basically, it's wonderful. It's the kind of logic that would be found in a fiction book where the bad guy is talking about how there is no good and evil. It's that kind of logic. But basically, since there's nothing intrinsic inside of you, since you are purely a product of what we program you to think, then there's no such thing as good and evil. It doesn't exist. And that's found in the school system, where you have this moral relativism, where you can engage in certain activities and it's considered normal. It's normalized. And yeah, there's no good and evil. Nothing is good. And that's how they were able to justify this crime against humanity, which has been the school system. We've literally dumbed down, we've ruined the lives of tens of millions of people through the school system, if not more. We've ruined the lives of so many people. It's caused mass suicide, mass drug use. It's horrible. But there's no, you can't call them evil for what they did, because there's no such thing as good and evil according to them. So they would never buy into that idea that they are evil, even though they of course are. And the final burden of being human that they wanted to conquer was that of the very concept of limited resources, where we only have a finite amount of resources. We cannot overindulge. We cannot do this mass consumerism. And the way they wanted to conquer that was by selectively breeding people. It's insane. And this is part of what's called Malthusianism, named after Thomas Malthus, who founded the idea that food supply only expands arithmetically, but population expands geometrically. So basically, we have to artificially lower the population. And in doing this, they wanted to have infinite resources for the elites, and where, they go full Roman party style, I guess, or French, before the French Revolution, full-on parties, because there'd be so few people, they would have virtually infinite resources for all intents and purposes. So they were going to do this with population control, which hasn't really worked per se. Maybe to some extent it has with like birth control and abortion, I don't know, but it hasn't really worked. However, we do still have this mass consumerism and materialism that's occurred. So that's the third burden, was the very concept of limited resources where we cannot overindulge in whatever we want. So they created a school system to manage children for management, a management system to produce workers who would serve them. But again, this is not evil because there's no such thing as good and evil, so why wouldn't you want to do that? And finally, last but not least, we have the fulfillment of purpose, their self-actualization, because these people were not religious by no means. They spent their entire life trying to defeat religion, trying to kill God, as Nietzsche said, God is dead and we killed him. That was their mission. Their mission was to kill God, and that was their purpose. So I'm guessing that they never really questioned what they were doing, because these people needed a purpose in life. They weren't religious, certainly. So that was off the table. And studies show that humans are inherently religious, and that does provide a deep sense of purpose to many people. But when you remove that, you need some other purpose. That's why so many atheists are also communists and utopians, because they need a greater purpose. And since religion is gone, they need some other fundamentalist idea to subscribe to. And in many cases, that ends up being utopianism or communism or socialism. Because you need something. Humans intrinsically, for whatever reason, either biologically or because of God, need a purpose in life. And this school system, which was going to create a utopia, was the fulfillment of their purpose. It was the actualization of what they wanted, this new school system. So again, it's not evil because there's no such thing as good and evil, and what they're actually doing is great. They're lowering the human population to preserve the earth. They are conquering work, the intrinsic value of work. They are conquering the family and religion, all because they viewed man as a machine, and in doing so, they will be fulfilling their purpose, their greater purpose, which is not religion, but not serving their family or serving their God, but serving themselves in their conquest to basically enslave the earth and create this brave new world, like the one in the book, in the famous 1932 book. I think that's a wrap. This one's been pretty short, but I think that's going to be a wrap for today. I had something else I was going to get to, but I'm not really feeling it. I was going to talk about schools reopening, but do we really want to hear about that? It's not that interesting. This is much more interesting and not depressing at all, might I add. It's very uplifting hearing all this. But it should be motivating, by the way. It should be motivating. It should make you want to take action and rebel against this horrible system that's been inflicted upon us. But yeah, all right. So, if you have any questions, again, my email is jbsillsshow@gmail.com. You can like this video if you're on YouTube, and please do subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, please do share it with a friend. You can share it with your, I was going to say dog, but that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Share it with, please share it. If you're going to share this video, please have it be with a human. That'd be really nice, actually. I know it's crazy, but don't share it with your rabbit or something. So, yeah, if it could be like your aunt or something, that'd be great. Really great. Yeah. Alright, so until next time, I've been your host, JB. Have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.